You know, it's a curious thing, how people speak of destiny, success, and the mysterious moment when life finally seems to open its hands and say, here, this is what you've been waiting for. And yet, the great paradox is that most people stand at the edge of that moment for years without realizing that the only thing delaying their victory is something quietly happening inside their own being. I don't say this to blame you. I say it because I've watched it unfold in countless minds, perhaps even my own, this delicate, invisible resistance that stands like a soft veil between the life we desire and the life we actually allow ourselves to experience. And so I invite you, as you listen, to imagine that I am sitting with you not as a guru perched on a mountaintop, but as a fellow traveler who has spent a rather unreasonable amount of time contemplating the inner mechanics of consciousness. Together, let us explore why your win has not yet arrived, and why, in truth, it is much closer than you think. For you see, the universe isn't late. It never has been. It operates with a kind of precise, rhythmic intelligence, something far older and wiser than our anxious, impatient minds. Life does not delay. Life prepares. And often what you call delay is simply the universe saying, not yet. You're still forming. You're still calibrating. You're still shedding the weight that would make this blessing too heavy for you to carry. But of course, in the human experience, these preparations feel like interruptions. They feel like setbacks. They feel like unanswered prayers and doors that refuse to open no matter how hard we push. Yet, if you were able to see the architecture of your own energy, your thoughts, emotions, fears, expectations, you would notice something remarkable. Your blessing is not waiting in front of you. It is waiting for you, waiting for the version of you who can hold it without trembling, who can sustain it without sabotage, who can receive it without shrinking back into the familiar discomfort of old limitations. Your win is delayed because, on some level, you are still negotiating with your old self. You are still unconsciously loyal to patterns that no longer serve you. You are still repeating emotions that pull you back into yesterday. You are still seeking comfort from the very habits that keep you from becoming who you truly are. This is not a flaw. It is simply conditioning. And conditioning, when left unconscious, creates loops. Emotional loops, mental loops, energetic loops. These loops keep you cycling through the same experiences, the same relationships, the same outcomes, even when you swear to yourself that you want something new. But here is the subtle truth. You cannot step into a new reality while carrying the emotional signature of the old one. Imagine for a moment that every thought you think emits a frequency, every emotion radiates a vibration, and every belief forms a shape, an invisible pattern that bends reality around it. These patterns are not metaphorical. They are real. They are energetic blueprints that govern what you attract, what you repel, and what you simply cannot see. Your win is not missing. It is simply unable to resonate with the energetic pattern you are currently inhabiting. This is why you must understand one of the most overlooked principles of manifestation. Life does not give you what you wish for. It gives you what you are. And what you are is determined not by your conscious desires, but by your subconscious emotional state. If you desire abundance, but your inner world is still saturated with scarcity, your win will feel delayed. If you desire love, but still fear rejection, your win will feel delayed. If you desire expansion, yet cling to the familiarity of smallness, your win will feel delayed. Not because the universe is denying you, but because you are still denying yourself the permission to become the person who can step into that higher reality without collapsing under its weight. Now, here is where it becomes truly fascinating. Most people assume their lives change when their circumstances change. But the opposite is true. Life changes because you change, and change real. Internal change is rarely comfortable. It often feels like chaos, like confusion, like losing pieces of yourself that felt essential. Even though they were quietly holding you back, you begin to feel restless, detached. You may start to outgrow certain relationships, certain environments, certain identities. Sometimes it feels like your world is falling apart. But what if, instead of falling apart, it is falling into alignment? What if the universe is rearranging everything around you so that what is meant for you can finally reach you? This is why your win seems delayed. Because you are in the in-between stage, the dissolving stage, the recalibration stage, the stage where you are no longer who you used to be, yet not fully anchored in who you are becoming. This stage is sacred. It is uncomfortable, yes, but sacred. For the in-between stage is where power is born. It is where the old self dies, not violently, but by gradual abandonment. You stop feeding its fears. You stop believing its narratives. You stop resonating with its emotional patterns. And as the old self withers, the new self begins to bloom, not with force, but with permission. Your delayed win is not punishment. It is protection. It is preparation. It is the universe ensuring that when your blessing arrives, you do not reject it out of fear, that you do not lose it out of self-sabotage, that you do not diminish it out of unworthiness. Think of it like this. A person who has not expanded their capacity to hold abundance will treat a blessing like a burden. They will shrink from it, mishandle it, or allow their old patterns to dismantle it. Life is not cruel enough to hand you something that you are not yet prepared to sustain. And so, the so-called delay is grace. Pure grace. It is the space where you learn emotional mastery, the space where you learn self-awareness, the space where you learn alignment, the space where you learn how to stand in the frequency of your desires without collapsing into fear. But perhaps the most significant ingredient in this process, the piece most people overlook, is your relationship with uncertainty. You see, your win is often delayed because you are still trying to control the unfolding, still trying to predict outcomes, still trying to force the universe into a timeline that suits your impatience. Yet life does not bend to impatience. It bends to alignment. When you resist uncertainty, you contract. Your energy tightens. Your creativity dulls. Your intuition becomes muted. But when you relax into uncertainty, something extraordinary happens. You begin to bloom where you stand. You begin to feel guided instead of lost. You begin to trust the rhythm of life instead of wrestling with it. And this trust, this surrender, is not passive. It is an active collaboration with the intelligence of the universe. It is choosing to hold the frequency of your desired reality even when nothing appears to be happening. It is allowing life to orchestrate the details in ways your limited mind cannot yet perceive. Because your blessing does not arrive through logic. It arrives through resonance. So I want to ask you something, perhaps the most important question you will hear today. What emotion is blocking your win? Is it fear, doubt, impatience, unworthiness, anger at how long it's taking, attachment to how it must unfold? Whatever it is, that emotion is the invisible barrier, not the universe, not fate, not luck, not timing. Emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. And every emotion either opens the door. You are not waiting for your win. Your win is waiting for you. To rise into the emotional frequency where receiving becomes natural. For what most people call waiting is actually a misunderstanding of their own inner landscape. You believe you are waiting for life to change, but life is waiting for you to change. Not because you are wrong or flawed or behind, but because life responds only to coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, and identity point in the same direction. You see, you can speak of abundance, yet feel scarcity. You can desire love, yet fear closeness. You can pray for opportunities, yet secretly doubt your worthiness. And the universe does not respond to your words. It responds to your vibration. This is why your win seems delayed. Not because it is far away, but because you are still standing in two realities at once. One foot in what you desire, the other planted firmly in what you fear. One hand reaching toward the future, the other gripping the past for stability. But you cannot hold both and expect to move. The blessing that awaits you requires a unified self, not a divided one. So the question becomes, what part of you still resists the very thing you say you want? Not consciously, but quietly, subtly, beneath the surface of your awareness. Perhaps you fear that success will change your relationships. Perhaps you fear that abundance will expose your insecurities. Perhaps you fear that receiving will require you to release what feels familiar. Perhaps you fear that stepping into your new life will mean you can no longer hide. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it disguises itself as logic, or caution, or practicality. Sometimes it hides behind procrastination or self-doubt. And as long as you unknowingly protect your fear, you unknowingly postpone your win. But here is the gentle truth. The universe will not override your fear. It waits for your permission. It waits for your readiness. It waits for the moment you stop rehearsing your limitations and begin rehearsing your expansion. What an extraordinary moment that is when you finally stop negotiating with your wounds and start collaborating with your potential. Most people misunderstand manifestation because they think it is about controlling reality. But manifestation is not control. It is alignment. A flower does not control the sun, but when it opens itself fully, the sun touches it without effort. Likewise, you are not meant to force your blessings. You are meant to become open to them. Opening yourself is the real work. Everything else is secondary. Let us look closely at the mechanics of this opening. Your energy, your emotional state, your beliefs, these form the magnetic field around your being that pulls reality toward you. And that magnetic field is strongest when your internal world is coherent. When your heart and mind are not arguing, when your desires and your identity are not at war. Imagine for a moment that your manifestation is a radio signal. If your inner frequency matches the signal, you hear the music. If it does not, the music is still there, but to you, it sounds like static. Your blessing exists now, in this very moment. But if your inner frequency is still tuned to an outdated channel, you cannot receive it. This is why inner work cannot be skipped. Not because you must suffer before you succeed, but because you must become compatible with the life you want. And becoming compatible requires awareness. So let me ask you now, not as a challenge, but as an invitation. What version of you is your blessing waiting for? The confident one? The healed one? The trusting one? The courageous one who finally stops shrinking? The peaceful one who no longer reacts from fear? The abundant one who no longer feels the need to chase anything? Because this is the cosmic irony. The moment you stop chasing your win and start embodying the version of you who already has it, the win no longer feels delayed. It arrives naturally. As a reflection of your new identity, you do not manifest what you want. You manifest who you are willing to become. And something remarkable happens when you choose to become the version of yourself who can hold the blessing. Your mind expands. Your energy stabilizes. Your decisions become aligned rather than desperate. Opportunities begin to appear not randomly but rhythmically. People who resonate with your new vibration show up. Old patterns dissolve, not because you fight them, but because they no longer fit the person you are becoming. This is the moment when delay ends. But even this moment does not come through force. It comes through awareness, through knowing yourself so deeply that you can no longer lie to your own soul. You begin to notice when your emotions contradict your desires. You begin to observe when your thoughts rehearse the past instead of the future. You begin to realize that your impatience is not guidance, it is resistance. And resistance is the only thing that delays your win. Think of resistance not as a barrier the universe imposes, but as a contraction within your own being. A tightening, a closing, a subtle refusal to expand. When you feel tense, doubtful, afraid, or rushed, your energy closes. Closed energy cannot receive. It can only protect. And the more you protect yourself from disappointment, the more you protect yourself from your blessing as well. This is why surrender is such a powerful force, not surrender as passivity, but surrender as openness. Surrender as trust. Surrender as the willingness to be led by something wiser than your fear. When you surrender, you switch from forcing life to collaborating with it. You switch from demanding outcomes to allowing them. You switch from chasing signs to becoming a sign yourself. And suddenly, what once felt delayed begins to move. The universe responds to your openness, the way a river responds to a clearing in the land. It flows effortlessly into the space you make for it. So let us speak now of the final reason your win has been delayed, perhaps the most subtle reason of all. You have been preparing the wrong part of yourself. You have been trying to rearrange the external world while ignoring the internal one. You have been trying to fix the branches instead of nourishing the roots. But your transformation doesn't begin when your circumstances change. It begins the moment you stop living emotionally anchored to the past. For as long as you continue to feel the same emotions you've always felt, your future will only recycle your history. Your blessing exists in a higher emotional state, one you must reach before it can reach you. This is why meditation, introspection, breathwork, presence, all of these practices are not just spiritual hobbies. They are tools that help you shift your emotional baseline, tools that elevate your internal frequency so that you become perceptible to the reality you want. When you quiet your mind, you tune the signal. When you calm your body, you open the channel. When you elevate your emotions, you broadcast a new frequency. And life must respond because life is not separate from you. It is an extension of your consciousness. Your delayed win has been a training ground, a refinement process, a sacred pause, a cosmic recalibration, not to test you, but to expand you, not to frustrate you, but to prepare you, not to deny you, but to shape you into the one who can walk confidently into the reality that is already forming around you. So now I invite you to release the idea of delay altogether. Replace it with a more accurate understanding. Your win is not delayed. It is becoming possible. And as you shift your inner world even slightly, the external world begins to respond. A new clarity emerges. You begin to sense the next step. You begin to feel supported rather than abandoned. The universe starts to rearrange itself in your favor, not because it suddenly decided to bless you, but because you finally decided to align with what was waiting for you all along. This is the moment when you stop hoping and start knowing. You stop doubting and start embodying. You stop waiting and start receiving.